Hello and welcome back. We are finishing chapter 11 for part 2, Marketing Helping Buyers Buy. When speaking about the marketing environment, these are all the factors that are surrounding the market which have influence on it that will determine whether or not the product or service will be successful in its given market. Think about the influences that we're facing today. Extreme political factors, economic factors are shooting up, shooting down. We have different social factors, right? We're forming new groups, highly charged, individualized thought patterns and associations. Technological factors in the United States versus other parts of the world. Different effects that the environment has, both seasonally and the overall climate changes, and legal factors which affect how we do business in the environment. The environment of marketing is changing faster than at any other time in history. Companies that don't keep up will fail to survive. Today's market influence is influenced by the global marketplace and the explosion of the information age. To effectively understand the marketing environment, it is critical companies continually scan the environment. This chart shows some examples of the different types of environmental factors and how they can have an effect on the 4Ps, which affect the customer purchasing decision process. We categorize the market generally with two main categories for the purposes of this class. We have B2B markets and B2C markets. B2B markets are all the individuals and organizations that want goods and services for use in producing other goods and services, which they will then sell, rent, or supply to another business or another consumer market. The consumer market are the individuals of households that want goods and services, and they're going to use them for personal consumption. Some of the comparisons overall from B2B to B2C are shown in the chart below. So as a prep from part 1 and part 2 to this point, the 4 steps in the marketing research process would be to first define the problem. Secondly, collect data. Step 3 is to analyze. And step 4 is to implement and monitor. What is environmental scanning? That includes checking factors which influence purchasing decisions. What factors are included in environmental scanning? Well, a lot of factors. Anything that can have an effect on the environment where your customers live, work, and make purchasing decisions. For the consumer market, we tend to divide the overall consumer market into market segments. Market segmentation is the process of dividing the total market into groups and categorizing them by their similar characteristics. Now, there are multiple ways to do this. Once we segment the market and understand who would be eligible and willing and able to purchase our product, then we can identify the target market. Consumers are generally divided into 6 types of market segments. And this is from an overall perspective. They're further broken down into categories under these 6 segments. The demographic segmentation divides the market by age, income, and education level. The psychological segment divides the market using the group's values, attitudes, and interests. The geographic segmentation divides the market by cities, counties, states, or other regions or geographic outlines. The benefits segmentation divides the market by determining which benefits of the product to talk about. And volume or usage is dividing the market by the quantity or the amount that the individual consumes, either by individual person or by household or some other divided category. The best segmentation strategy is to use all the variables to come up with a consumer profile that represents a sizable, reachable, and profitable target market. Figure 11.6 shows some of the methods marketers use to divide the market. The aim of segmentation is to break the market into smaller units. Here's an exercise. Try to determine what type of market would be eligible, able, and willing to produce, or excuse me, to purchase ramen noodles. So I'll give you a moment to think about what type of segments this could be broken down into. When we categorize ramen soup, we know that it is on the lower end according to cost. The quality is not the best. However, it does provide a full meal and allows you to feel full afterwards. It's brightly colored and readily available at most supermarkets and shopping centers. In the second exercise, we have what we will consider to be authentic Louboutin shoes. These shoes run anywhere from $800 to $1,600 a pair. Now, what type of markets segments um, would be interested, willing, and able to purchase this type of shoe? As we discussed, this would be part of the luxury market. If they would probably categorize women as the main purchasers of these shoes. And there is probably a certain income threshold that would be eligible or willing or able to purchase this type of shoe. Brand recognition is also important, and that's a way to further segment the market. For smaller market segments, we use what is called niche marketing. That is the small but profitable segments that fill a gap in providing a product or service for an individualized need. In contrast, one-to-one marketing also provides a service to the individual customer, but they develop a unique mix which can then be tailored or customized to individuals' preferences. Mass marketing. Mass marketing is developing products and promotions to please large groups of people. Relationship marketing is a marketing strategy with the goal of keeping individual customers over time by offering them products that exactly meet their requirements. This tends to lead away from mass production and toward custom-made goods and services. So how do we become successful with relationship marketing? It is all about moving away from mass production and towards custom-made goods. The slide identifies the keys to successful relationship marketing. The goal is to retain individual customers over time by offering them new products that meet their expectations. For example, Nike uses relationship marketing to create custom-made shoes via Nike ID. Another example ends up in your email box frequently during the week. When you go on a company's website and browse certain items, then they immediately email you if you hadn't closed the purchase or suggest other items that you may also like. Have you ever wondered why your favorite burger place is all decked out in red? Or why high-end stores love using black and gold? Colors are, and the psychology of colors are a major component of marketing. Understanding and being able to use them appropriately can have a huge decision-making effect on your customers. A study found that people make an initial judgment about a product within 90 seconds, and up to 90% of that is based on color alone. So, are you ready to dive into the deep end of colors and how they mess with our brains? The color red. We often see the color red in restaurants and food and drink marketing. We also see it in other categories like entertainment, um, and other types of businesses. So, marketing tends to exude power and energy. It gives us a sense of excitement. When used inappropriately or overly extensively, it can give a feeling of aggression or defiance. So, using these colors appropriately will give us the intended result. Orange, in contrast, gives off feelings of warmth and innovation and energy. So we often have innovative companies using orange either in small part or in contrast with a darker color. Too much orange can exude frustration or sluggishness. So um, we want to keep it as the minority color in most in most brands. So, orange can negatively be associated with something being cheap or discounted. Yellow. As we already know, yellow exudes a sense of happiness. However, depending on the color yellow and the type that you're using, it can appear dirty. Um, so, it's best used in bright contrast with a dark color such as black. Green. Green is our earth tone. It reminds us of freshness, growth, prosperity, and opportunity. Many companies like to use the color green because it represents life and is synonymous with health. The color blue is the most used color of any trademark so far, and most banks and software companies traditionally use the color blue. Blue has a calming effect and exudes trust and loyalty, but try not to overuse it since it has been notoriously used in previous years. Lastly, the color purple exudes a sense of luxury, wealth, or spirituality. It tends to be geared toward the female customer segmentation, but it can also be prominent in higher end or more expensive offerings. So, however, it can be negatively viewed as showing decadence or moodiness. So, how do we use these in the consumer market? Online product reviews are influencing consumer decision-making processes. So, how would you deal with a negative review? Obviously, we have to take this into context and make sure that the review accurately describes the product that we're trying to purchase and not the experience of purchasing the product. In the consumer market, the decision-making process starts with recognizing a problem. Then the consumer will research information about the type of product they're interested in purchasing. They will evaluate it against other competitors and eventually make a purchase decision. Afterwards, there is a post-purchase evaluation. Did that look good on me? Did I use it as often as I meant to? Was it ideal for the purpose intended? Cognitive dissonance is the feeling that occurs after a purchase when you have a conflict of whether or not you should have made the purchase to begin with. Cognitive dissonance also often follows impulse purchases or large expenditures that have not been thoroughly researched. With marketing, both in the business to consumer and business to business market, some common issues are brand awareness, social media, converting leads into customers, gaining customer insight, budgeting, and competing in global markets. So, who is in the business to business market? These are manufacturers who use vendors' parts in their manufacturing process, retailers who want to purchase from vendors or suppliers and then sell to consumers, hospitals, schools, and nonprofits, which make purchases in bulk and then reuse them for their business purposes, and of course, the government. Comparing B2B and B2C consumer buying behavior, we must consider the structure, products, and buying procedures of each market. For business to business markets, you generally have a few customers who are able to make larger purchases, and they might need more complex products or more individualized customization of products. The buyers who speak with these vendors are generally trained on how to fulfill customers' needs and let them know what availability the company has to fill them. In the B2C market, instead of having a few vendors that you're supplying products to, you'll have many potential customers. The average purchase size in the consumer market is much smaller, and it's geographically dispersed. So the consumers tend to require less technical and less customization in their products. And there's no special training required for sales individuals to sell to consumers. Some of your prospective careers in marketing, if you seem to have a talent or affinity for the marketing trade, would be to be a retail store manager, engage in marketing research and analytics, focus on product management, selling, advertising, or sales, and public relations. As a review, can you define the terms consumer market and business to business market? The consumer market includes all individuals or households that want goods and services for personal consumption. Business to business markets are all the individuals and organizations that want goods and services and use those to produce other goods and services that they will in turn sell, rent, or supply to others. Can you name and describe 5 ways to segment the consumer market? There are infinite ways to segment the consumer market. Some of these are identified as age, race, income, education, gender, values, and others. What is niche marketing and how does it differ from one-to-one marketing? Niche marketing is finding small but profitable market segments and designing a product to fulfill the needs of that niche. One-on-one marketing develops services and goods for individualized customers, but on a larger scale. Number 4, what are the 4 key factors that make B2B markets different from consumer markets? Some of the key factors that differentiate would be the types of consumers making the purchase decisions, the type of relationship that you have with B2B versus B2C customers, the purchase size, and the method of determining the purchase decisions. You can refer to Figure 11.7 for the full table of options. You've completed Chapter 11, Marketing. I hope you enjoyed this.